Welcome to the resuming of Little House Live. Let me just clean my lens here. Where we read from the Little House books. Excuse me, let me just get this right. We read from the Little House books, and then we separate fact from fiction. Now, I have the book Pioneer Girl, which is her actual autobiography, Laura Ingalls Wilder's actual autobiography. And these books, a lot of these things in these books were fictionalized to make them child friendly. There were entire groups of people left out. They played fast and loose with locations and timelines. No, you go lay down, baby. Mommy busy. Excuse me. You see this? There you go. So, and I have the book Pioneer Girl somewhere. I just can't find it right now. I have the book Pioneer Girl somewhere around the house so that I could help you separate facts from fiction, but I'm pretty sure most of my facts are Googleable. And if I'm wrong, I definitely want you to pull me up on it. But I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to break a lot of hearts. Jack never existed. Jack, the dog, never existed. When they left the little house in the big woods, they left their dog King behind. And they went from the little house in the big woods to Plum Creek. The little house on the prairie that we're supposed to think precedes Plum Creek really didn't happen in Laura's timeline. Carrie wasn't the baby on Little House in the Prairie. Laura was. And most of that book is stories that she grew up hearing because she was like 18 months old when they were there. Okay, so she'd have very little memory of that. All right, now I am not going to chat. We will chat after I read, okay? Gotta put on the old bifocals. Go lay down, Gracie. Gotta put on the old bifocals. That's why I can't read chat with these on. These are computer glasses. These are for driving and watching TV, and these are for reading. So it's, yeah, I should upgrade to trifocals, but they're bloody expensive. So, welcome to Little House Live. Now that I've given everybody time to get here, welcome to Little House Live, and we're starting. Oh, this isn't on the banks of Plum Creek. I just saw purple. This is the long winter. All right, well, we won't be. I like reading from paper. I like reading from books, but we're going to have to do Kindle, I guess. So, where is Kindle? This is my old phone. There's no SIM card in it, but I use it for storing such things. Okay, Little House on the Prairie collection. Okay, we are not doing By the Shores of Silver Lake yet. Hang on now. Okay. Okay, we are into. All right. Oh, and Nellie Olson was pretty much a fictitious character. There was someone that she thinks of when she made up Nellie Olson, but Nellie Olson and the Nellie Olson that you meet in the long winter are kind of an amalgam of a couple of people. So, okay. Where we go. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. If I had looked at the title of that book, I would. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness. Come on, come on. I'm sorry, guys. I have to go through page by page. Okay, here we go. On the Banks of Plum Creek by Laura Ingalls Wilder. The door in the ground. The dim wagon track. The heck? Sorry. The dim wagon track went no farther on the prairie, and Pa stopped the horses. When the wagon wheels stopped turning, Jack dropped down onto the shade between them. His belly sank on the grass and his front legs stretched out. His nose fitted in the furry hollow. All of him rested except his ears. All day long, for many, many days, Jack had been trotting under the wagon. He had trotted all the way from the little log house in Indian Territory, across Kansas, across Missouri, across Iowa, and a long, long way to Minnesota. He had learned to take his rest whenever the wagon stopped. In the wagon, Laura jumped up and so did Mary. Their legs were tired of not moving. This must be the place. This must be the place, Pa said. It's a half mile up the creek from Nelson's. We've come a good half mile and there's the creek. Laura could not see a creek. She saw a grassy bank and beyond it a line of willow treetops, waving in the gentle wind. Everywhere else, the prairie grasses were rippling far away to the sky's straight edge. Seems to be some kind of stable over there, said Pa, looking around the edge of the canvas wagon cover. But where's the house? Laura jumped inside her skin. A man was standing beside the horses. No one had been in sight anywhere. No one had been in sight anywhere, but suddenly that man was there. His hair was pale yellow. His round face was red as an Indian's, and his eyes were so pale they looked like a mistake. Jack growled. Be still, Jack, said Pa. He asked the man, Are you Mr. Hanson? Yeah, the man said. Pa spoke slowly and loudly. I heard you want to go west. You trade your place. The man looked slowly at the wagon. He looked at the Mustangs, Pat and Patty, and after a while he said again, Yeah. Pa got out of the wagon and Ma said, You can climb down and run around, girls. I know you are tired from sitting still. Jack got up when Laura climbed down the wagon wheel, but he had to stay under the wagon until Pa said he might go. He looked out at Laura while she ran along a little path that was there. The path went across short sunny grass to the edge of the bank. Down below it was the creek, rippling and glistening in the sunshine. The willow trees grew up beyond the creek. Over the edge of the bank, the path turned and went slanting down close against the grassy bank that rose up like a wall. Laura went down it cautiously. The bank rose up beside her till she could not see the wagon. There was only the sky above her, and down below her the water was talking to itself. Laura went a step farther, then one more step. The path stopped at a wider, flat place, where it turned and dropped down to the creek in stair steps. Then Laura saw the door. The door stood straight up in the grassy bank, where the path turned. It was like a house door, but whatever was behind it was under the ground. The door was shut. In front of it lay two big dogs with ugly faces, probably mastiffs. They saw Laura and slowly rose up. Laura ran very fast up the path to the safe wagon. Mary was standing there, and Laura whispered to her, There's a door in the ground. And two big dogs. She looked behind her. The two dogs were coming. Jack's deep growl rolled from under the wagon. He showed those dogs his fierce teeth. Those your dogs? Pa said to Mr. Hanson. Mr. Hanson turned and spoke words that Laura could not understand, but the dogs understood. One behind the other, they slunk over the edge of that bank, down out of sight. Pa and Mr. Hanson walked slowly away toward the stable. The stable was small and it was not made of logs. Grass grew on its walls and its roof. Grass grew on its walls, and its roof was covered with growing grasses blowing in the wind. Laura and Mary stayed near the wagon where Jack was. They looked at the prairie grasses swaying and bending, and yellow flowers nodding. Birds rose and flew and sank into the grasses. The sky curved very high, and its rim came neatly down to the faraway edge of the round earth. When Pa and Mr. Hanson came back, they heard Pa say, "All right, Hanson, we'll go to town tomorrow and fix up the papers. Tonight we'll camp here." Yeah, Mr. Hanson agreed. Pa boosted Mary and Laura into the wagon and drove out onto the prairie. He told Ma that he had traded Pet and Patty for Mr. Hanson's land. He had traded Bunny the mule colt and the wagon cover for Mr. Hanson's crop and his oxen. Sounds like an unfair trade, actually. He unhitched Pet and Patty and led them to the creek to drink. He put them on their picket lines and helped Mom make camp for the night. Laura was quiet. She did not want to play, and she was not hungry when they all sat eating supper by the campfire. "The last night out," said Pa. "Tomorrow we'll be settled again. The house is in the creek bank, Caroline. "Oh, Charles," said Ma. "A dugout? We've never had to live in a dugout yet." "I think you'll find it very clean," Pa told her. "Norwegians are clean people. It will be snug for winter, and that's not far away." "Yes, it will be nice to be settled before snow flies," Ma agreed. "It's only till I harvest the first wheat crop," said Pa. "Then you'll have a fine house, and I'll have horses and maybe even a buggy. This is great wheat country, Caroline. Rich, level land, with not a tree or a rock to contend with. I can't make out why Hanson sowed such a small field. It must have been a dry season. Or Hanson's no farmer. His wheat is so thin and light." Beyond the firelight, Pet and Patty and Bunny were eating grass. They bit it off with sharp pulling crunches and then stood chewing it, looking through the dark at the low stars shining. They switched their tails peacefully. They did not know they had been traded. Laura was a big girl, 7 years old. She was too big to cry, but she could not help asking, "Pa, did you have to give 'em Pet and Patty? Did you, Pa?" Pa's arm drew her close to him in a cuddly hug. "Why, little half-pint," Pa said. "Pet and Patty like to travel. They're little Indian ponies, Laura, and plowing is too hard work for them. They will be much happier traveling out west. You wouldn't want to keep them here breaking their hearts on a plow. Pet and Patty will go on traveling with those... Pet and Patty will go on traveling, and with those big oxen, I can break up a great big field and have it ready for wheat next spring. A good crop of wheat will bring us more money than we've ever had, Laura. We'll have horses and new dresses and everything you can want." Laura did not say anything. She felt better with Pa's arm around her, but she did not want anything except to keep Pet and Patty and Bunny, the long-eared colt. Now, do you want me to go on to chapter 2? I will look in the chat. I'm going to pop out the part. I am going to say hello if you want to be shouted out. I am going to pop out the chat. And hey, little bit. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Lilia. And you want chapter 2? Yeah, Paul always had, big, hi, hot child in the city, Abigail, Natasha B., Lilia. Okay, yes, chapter 2, the house in the ground. And then we'll do some talking. But I do have another live stream to do at 8 o'clock on Life with the Wolfies. So, okay, the house in the ground. Early in the morning, Pa helped Mr. Hanson move the wagon bows and cover onto Mr. Hanson's wagon. Then they brought everything out of the dugout house up the bank, and they packed it into the covered wagon. Mr. Hanson offered to help move things from Pa's wagon into the dugout, but Ma said, "No, Charles, we will move in when you come back." So Pa hitched Pet and Patty to Mr. Hanson's wagon. He tied Bunny behind it, and he rode away to town with Mr. Hanson. Laura watched Pet and Patty and Bunny going away. Her eyes smarted and her throat ached. Pet and Patty arched their necks, and their manes and tails rippled in the wind. They went away gaily, not knowing that they were never coming back. The creek was singing to itself down among the willows, and the soft wind bent the grasses over the top of the bank. The sun was shining, and all around the wagon was clean, wide space to be explored. The first thing was to untie Jack from the wagon wheel. Mr. Hanson's 2 dogs had gone away, and Jack could run about as he pleased. He was so glad that he jumped up against Laura to lick her face and made her sit down hard. Then he ran down the path, and Laura ran after him. Ma picked up Carrie and said, "Come, Mary, let's go look at the dugout." Jack got to the door first. It was open. He looked in, and then he waited for Laura. All around that door, green vines were growing out of the grassy bank, and they were full of flower, red and blue, purple and rosy pink, and white striped flowers. All had their throats wide open, as if they were singing to the glory of the morning. Their morning glories, obviously. Oh, they were morning glory flowers. Laura went under those singing flowers into the dugout. It was one room, all white. The earth walls had been smoothed and whitewashed. The earth floor was smooth and hard. When Ma and Mary stood in the doorway, the light went dim. There was a small greased paper window beside the door, but the wall was so thick that the light from the window stayed near the window. That front wall was built of sod. Mr. Hanson had dug out his house, and then he had cut up strips of prairie sod and laid them on top of one another to make the front wall. It was a good thick wall with not one crack in it. No cold could get through that wall. Ma was pleased. She said, "It's small, but it's clean and pleasant." And then she looked at the ceiling and said, "Look, girls." The ceiling was made of hay. Willow boughs had been laid across their branches, woven together, but here and there the hay that had been spread on them showed through. "Well," Ma said. They all went up the path and stood on the roof of that house. No one could have guessed it was a roof. Grass grew on it and waved in the wind just like all the grasses along the creek bank. "Goodness," said Ma. "Anybody could walk right over this house and never know it's here." But Laura spied something. She bent over and parted the grasses with her hands, and she cried, "I found the stovepipe hole. Look, Mary, look." Ma and Mary stopped to look, and Carrie leaned out from Ma's arm and looked. Jack came pushing to look. They all could look right down into the whitewash room under the grass. They looked at it till Ma said, "We'll brush out the place before Pa comes back. Mary and Laura, you bring the water pails." Mary carried the large pail and Laura the small one, and they went back down the path again. Jack ran ahead and took his place by the door. Ma found a willow twig broom in the corner, and she brushed the walls carefully. Mary watched Carrie to keep her from falling down into the creek, and Laura took the little pail and went for water. She hoppity-skipped down the stair steps to the end of a little bridge across the creek. The bridge was one wide plank. Its other end was under a willow tree. The tall willows fluttered slender leaves up against the sky, and little willows grew around them in clumps. They shaded all the ground, and it was cool and bare. The path went across it to a wide spring where cold, clear water fell into a tiny pool, and they ran trickling to the creek. Laura filled the little pail and went across the sunny footbridge and up the steps. She went back and forth, fetching water in the little pail and pouring it into the big pail set on a bench inside the doorway. Then she helped Ma bring down from the wagon everything they could carry. They had moved nearly everything into the dugout when Pa came rattling down the path. He was carrying a little tin stove and 2 pieces of stovepipe. "Phew," he said, setting them down. "I'm glad I had to carry them only 3 miles. Think of it, Caroline. Town's only 3 miles away. Just a nice walk. Well, Hanson's on his way. Hanson's on his way west, and the place is ours. How do you like it, Caroline?" "I like it," said Ma, "but I don't know what to do about the beds. I don't want to put them on the floor." "What's the matter with that?" Pa asked her. "We've been sleeping on the ground." "That's different," Ma said. "I don't like to sleep on the floor in a house." "Well, that's soon fixed," said Pa. "I'll cut up some willow boughs to spread the beds on for tonight. Tomorrow I'll find some straight willow poles and make a couple of bedsteads." He took his axe and went whistling up the path over the top of the house and down the slope beyond it to the creek. There lay a tiny valley. Where willows grew thick all along and beside the water. Laura ran at his heels. "Let me help, Pa," she panted. "I can carry some." "Why, so you can," said Pa, looking down at her with his eyes twinkling. "There's nothing like help when a man has a big job to do." Pa often said he did not know how he could manage without Laura. She had helped him make the door for the log house in Indian Territory. Now she helped him carry the leafy willow boughs and spread them in the dugout. Then she went with him to the stable. All 4 walls of the stable were built of sods, and the roof was willow boughs and hay with sods laid over it. The roof was so low that Pa's head touched it when he stood up straight. There was a manger of willow poles, and 2 oxen were tied there. One was a huge gray ox with short horns and gentle eyes. The other was smaller with fierce long horns and wild eyes. He was bright red-brown all over. "Well, hello, Bright," Pa said to him. "And how are you, Pete, old fellow?" he asked the big ox, slapping him gently. "Stand back out of the way, Laura," he said, "till we see how these cattle act. We've got to take them to water." He put ropes around their horns and led them out of the stable. They followed him slowly down the slope to a level path and went through the green rushes to the flat edge of the creek. Laura slowly tagged after them. Their legs were clumsy, and their big feet split in the middle. Their noses were broad and slimy. Laura stayed outside the stable while Pa tied them to the manger. She walked with him towards the dugout. "Pa," she said in a little voice, "did Pet and Patty truly want to go out west?" "Yes, Laura," he told her. "Oh, Pa," she said. There was a tremble in her voice. "I don't think I like cattle much." Pa took her hand and comforted it in his big one. He said, "Laura, we must do the best we can. We must do the best we can, Laura, and not grumble. What must be done is best done cheerfully, and someday we will have horses again." "When, Pa?" she asked him, and he said, "When we raise our first crop of wheat." They went into the dugout. Ma was cheerful. Mary and Carrie were already washed and combed, and everything was neat. The beds were made on the willow boughs, and supper was ready. After supper, they all sat on the path before the door. Pa and Ma had boxes to sit on. Carrie cuddled sleepily in Ma's lap, and Mary and Laura sat on the hard path, their legs dangling over its sharp edge. Jack turned around 3 times and lay down with his head against Laura's knee. They all sat quiet, looking across Plum Creek and the willows, watching the sun sink far away in the west, far away over the prairie lands. At last, Ma drew a long breath. "It's all so tame and peaceful," she said. "There will be no wolves or Indians howling tonight. I haven't felt so safe and at rest since I don't know when." Pa's slow voice answered, "We're safe enough, all right. Nothing can happen here." The peaceful colors went all around the rim of the sky. The willows breathed, and the water talked to itself in the dusk. The land was dark gray. The sky was light gray, and the stars pricked through it. "It's bedtime," Ma said. And here is something new anyway. We've never slept in a dugout before. She was laughing, and Pa laughed softly. Laura lay in Laura lay in bed and listened to the water talking and the willows whispering. She would rather sleep outdoors, even if she heard wolves, than to be so safe in this house, dug under the ground. So, what do we know? We know that actually Jack doesn't exist. Hey, Stephen! When I was little, I hated to read, but Flicka, Recca, and Dicka, only one sentence on each page. Till the day the librarian gave me Little House in the Big Woods, I read them all. Hey, Tessie, how's it going? So we know that Jack actually didn't exist. And we know that they actually went from Little House in the Big Woods to actually to Plum Creek. That Little House in the Prairie itself was a book written about when she was 18 months old. So it was fictionalized to make her older so that they could um fit it in there. But the truth is, you think about this. Carrie was the baby when they left Little House in the Big Woods. Carrie was the baby while they lived over a year in Indian Territory, and then Carrie's still a baby when they're come to Plum Creek. No. So you got to look at the timelines and things like that. And I read somewhere that it said that even if Jack was real, because we know he's not, because if they went from the Little House in the Big Woods to actually to the property on Plum Creek, right? Then I'm sorry, this is really the light's really bothering me. If they went from Little House in the Big Woods to the banks of Plum Creek while Carrie was still a baby, right? They had left their dog, King, behind, which is not in the book, but which is in the biography, the autobiography, right? So when they arrived at Plum Creek, they didn't have a dog. And if they did, it said in the book, most likely that Jack would have gone on with Mr. Hanson because, he was not a tame house dog. You know what I mean? But in reality, if you realize that they went from Little House in the Big Woods to the banks of Plum Creek, Jack never existed. They left their dog behind in the big woods of Wisconsin, right? So that's so we're looking at these things as, yes, they're based on Laura's life. But if you want the truth, you need to read Pioneer Girl, her autobiography, which these stories are based on. But a lot of things, timelines, characters even, like I said, Nellie Olson's like an amalgam of someone from Plum Creek and someone from somewhere else, right? So she's just kind of a fictional character based on two different people, right? So yeah, welcome. If it's going to be nice reading these stories, but it's going to be kind of downletting to find out a lot of it are our favorite things are not actually true, right? So, but I mean, most of it is, and they've left out a lot of things, like how often they actually moved, and when they went through the long winter, there was actually another family living with them. Did you know that? But we'll bring that up when we get to the long winter, which will probably, maybe, no, because we have to get through On the Banks of Plum Creek. Then I believe it's Farmer Boy. And then it's little on the shores of Silver Lake, Little Town on the Prairie, The Hard Winter, and so on. So I don't think we're going to get to the long winter this winter. So George Masters family, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. Yeah. When I was little, I hated to read but Flicka, Ricka, and Dicka, only one sentence on each page, till the librarian gave me The Little House in the Big Woods. Yeah, I actually didn't know there was a whole series of them until God, we lived here in Quebec, and then I saw the complete set for $10 at a white elephant sale, and I was like, boom, I'm taking that. They're all over the house. I don't even know where half of them are, but you can tell by the duct tape that even though I just bought them like 10, 15 years ago, I've read them pretty hard. How She Met Her Husband isn't true. Oh no, How She Met Her Husband is true. Okay, I'm not saying that it's all untrue. I'm just saying that they've made these are children's books. So a lot of the timelines were changed to fit. A lot of characters got blended together, and they played fast and loose with timelines and places and people. But no, and here's something not many people know. Laura actually, who was the guy who went with Almanzo for the wheat in the huge prairie wheat? That's a true story, by the way. Laura actually had a crush on the other guy first. She actually had a crush on, what's his name? Anyway, yeah, they Cap Garland. Thank you, Lilia. Cap Garland. She actually had a crush on him first, but for the sake of the stories, they just went straight to Almanzo, right? But Cap Garland, she had quite the crush on Cap Garland, right? But he was a devil may care, blonde, blue-eyed, Viking-looking kind of guy. Of course, cleaned up and stuff. Anyway, I hope you guys read or enjoyed our first reading of On the Banks of Plum Creek, Little House Live. And I have to go and take my stuff out of the canner and get ready for my live stream on Life with the Wolfies. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Maybe 7. It depends on how fast it goes. All right? Mwah! Take care. God bless.